A few years ago, Grand Seiko faced a very big challenge. They had to change people's perception, not only of the brand itself, but also of Japanese craftsmanship and manufacturing. This issue was discussed in the Seiko video series, where the perception of people in the United States and America and maybe Europe was that Seiko was a good quality, but above all, cheap brand. And we can blame that on the Seiko 5 model because it was very famous and popular. Now the problem was that Grand Seiko still carried the prejudice that the term Seiko equaled cheap watches. So having a Grand Seiko that was over $7,000 or $8,000 caused shock for people. They didn't understand it. It didn't make sense. However, on the other side of the world, in Japan and the Asian market, Grand Seiko had a completely different perception. And the perception was simple. If Seiko makes high quality watches, then Grand Seiko being more expensive, they will deliver even more quality. Now, even though Grand Seiko was well known in the Asian market, it lacked a bit of cachet elsewhere. So what did Grand Seiko do? They basically stole, or they hired, who was the director of Omega at that time. But above all, they chose a champion, a model who would be the face of Grand Seiko to the world. The introduction of the Japanese brand to the whole globe. And who was this special soldier? It was a warrior born from the snow that falls several months of the year in the mountains of Hotaka. It's the snowflake. This was the first Grand Seiko watch to leave Japan and venture out to spread the word of the Japanese brand worldwide. Its mission was very important, to demonstrate the quality and showcase Japanese manufacturing and craftsmanship at its best. But above all, to inspire the world with beauty of the Japanese culture. But most importantly, to separate itself from the Seiko name, to show that they were two completely different worlds. Now, the strategies they followed were extremely interesting, and if you ask me, the results so far have been spectacular. At first, Grand Seiko watches came with dual branding, meaning they had the Seiko logo on the top of the dial and the Grand Seiko logo at the bottom. But to truly separate from their parent brand, they had to eliminate this. Secondly, they did something I consider a masterclass in brand positioning, which was offering high quality watches at a nearly unbelievable price. Now, I've mentioned this in many of my Grand Seiko videos, that the models they offer seem cheap for what they provide. Why? Well, for starters, they come with a completely different technology, the spring drive movement, which essentially combines the best of the quartz watch world with the best of the automatic watch world. We have a rotor that winds a spring which powers the watch, but this watch is as accurate as the best quartz watch. Not to mention the finishing of these movements are spectacular. Additionally, these watches brought something that the market had never seen before: dials with depth and almost poetic inspiration. I believe the snowflake was a great choice because it was a neutral watch. It was white with a very deep dial with a lot of texture, something no brand had offered before, especially not at the price Grand Seiko offered. One of the most important aspects was the Zaratsu finishing, and it is this high polish finish given to the metal, in this case titanium. And it is a very special technique that only certain artisans in Japan can achieve, elevating the watch to a spectacular level. When you take this watch out to the sunlight, the watch practically dazzles you with how the indicators, hands, case and bracelet reflect the light. And this is what I love the most about this watch and the brand overall. All this finishing makes you feel like you have a watch that's 4 or 5 times more expensive in your hands. Now the Japanese say the secret to this finish is that they don't use the typical polishing wheels. They achieve this finishing literally with stone wheels. So their polishing is stone against metal, making their angles very aggressive and sharp. And I believe this is a basic rule of marketing when you want to position your brand. You offer very low prices and very high quality, at least in the beginning. And Grand Seiko's team truly achieved this perfectly. They introduced the perfect ambassador to pave the way and create a buzz about the brand that promised to change the watch market as we know it today. But then came a master move. As you already know, Grand Seiko brings an inspiration that no other brand has been able to capture in their watches. The master move was releasing a collection of 4 watches inspired by the seasons, and that it was exclusive for the United States. Now, they introduced very safe colors like blue, green, and gray, but surprisingly, the best seller and most sought after watch was the pink one. Introducing a pink watch at that time was a bit risky, but as people say, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. And indeed, that was the case. The pink watch named Shunbun, inspired by the death of the Japanese cherry blossoms, which are iconic to the Japanese culture, propelled the brand to another level. Without these 2 watches and Grand Seiko's excellent brand positioning strategy as a house of very good quality, we probably wouldn't be talking about the Japanese house today. Now the direction of Grand Seiko is changing, as it should. All brands need to evolve and they cannot remain stagnant. Prices are rising as expected, but I believe the Japanese brand still has enormous potential. Without a doubt, I think they will continue to evolve the market. But what do you think?